Hello everyone, it's Ethan Ives with Westgate Realty and Vince Tantone with Method Home Inspections. We're out here today at 3506 North 29th Street. This is actually a property that we own of FCM Properties. We've, for the most part, gutted this whole property and we're getting ready to put it on the market. We still have some touch-ups. There are some things, but we like to bring a home inspector like Vince in to look at these houses right towards the end, just so we can make sure we're online with everything that needs, no mess-ups. So if you follow us inside, we'll take a look at it. All right, we just stepped inside on the living room of 3506 North 29th Street. We had quite a few changes in this room. When we first found it, we had a fireplace over here. There was a galley kitchen that was really tight. And also we had an archway going into a formal dining room over here that we turned into an office by adding the French doors. We did actually bring Vince in here at the beginning because we took a section of this wall out, and during the planning stages, you want to talk a little bit about kind of some of our ideas and what we thought about it?
Yeah. So, you know, the house, originally it had a little bit of settling and cracking happen in this area, and so we talked about how Ethan wanted to open the kitchen up and what we had to do to get it done right. And so that's one of the great things, is having somebody that's willing to work with the right people at the beginning to make sure things are done right, because we see a lot of flips and a lot of remodels that don't get the proper support that they need, and then you end up with trouble down the road.
So as we moved over here to the kitchen, we completely ripped out all the countertops, cabinets, and with these new cabinets we did add some additional features. We like drawers instead of just regular cabinet bases. We have a trash can over there built in. Also the pantry has pull-out drawers. Just a few different features that you usually don't see in a kitchen of, you know, this price point.
Yeah. I like the addition of the switch for the garbage disposal on the countertop. That's a lot easier to use, and knowing things that are done correctly, like putting the correct drainage in for the dishwasher, helps to keep you backwash from your garbage disposal into that dishwasher. So things that are done like that a lot of people don't think about, really help the home in the long term.
And even when we're doing some of these projects, a lot of times even our first run at this, we can end up with some plumbing that's not quite right. Once again, kind of why we bring Vince in, just to make sure we did everything the way it's supposed to be, so the new homeowner hopefully doesn't have any problems right off the bat. We just stepped here into the primary bathroom. When we first purchased this house, there was do-it-yourself projects all over, and a lot of them weren't finished at this point. This room in particular had some unique features that were installed on it, and Vince was able to see this, and if you take a look over here, it's kind of what we did, and he can describe a little bit of our challenges in getting this thing ready.
So when Ethan first had me come out here, this shower was a lot different than it is now. It was pretty fantastic, really. And if you look at my Instagram, you'll see I took a video of it to share with everybody, and there was about 300,000 people that took a look at that. But the way that it is now is a lot better. It's got the dual shower head set up with the dual valve. It's really kind of a nice setup, and I like it. It's a huge improvement over what it was before.
So just a few more things to point out in here. We did end up doing matching quartz countertops like we did into the kitchen, new cabinetry that matches the kitchen. We did do a little unique feature here with the shiplap and the round mirrors, just to set this room apart a little bit. So one thing we did at this house, we mentioned earlier that we took the archway out and installed French doors. The idea behind this home, it's got a lot of space. It's a little over 3,200 square feet. We have the 3 bedrooms upstairs, 2 on this side, primary on that side, the split floor plan. But this room, we wanted to go ahead and add a closet. Really more the idea was to be used as an office, to where this originally would have been a formal dining room. But we wanted to do the closet too, just to give that an option as a bedroom if somebody needed more than 5 bedrooms in this house. We're out here on the back deck, and this backyard had quite a few repairs overall. We had siding repairs, we had a lot of stuff in the yard that had to be regraded, gutters. This deck was a major pain point. On a lot of these projects that we do, we're able to come in, power wash the deck, refinish the wood, and make it look pretty nice. But as Vince saw, you can kind of tell us a little bit about the condition of this deck when we first got the home.
Yeah, the deck was in pretty rough shape, and you know, that's something that a lot of people don't think about. You really got to keep a wood deck sealed all the time, because the elements can do a lot of damage to a deck in a very short amount of time. And I'm talking like 1 or 2 summers, and you have damage from water, you have damage from the sun to a deck, so keeping it sealed is a good idea. One of the great things about this deck that you don't see on a lot is there's actually flashing along the side of the house, which is actually, as surprising as it sounds, kind of rare.
Another thing, Vince, on here, you've also got a lot of times I see in your inspections where these decks aren't bolted on correctly.
Right.
And there has been a few cases over the last, probably 5-6 years where there's been a lot of people on a deck of this size and they fell and, injuries, and it's been a bad thing. And I think we were able to hit pretty good on this deck, but I think there's a few joist hangers he's pointed out that we need to address.
So a lot of the stuff was good. Seeing the railing posts bolted on, that's another thing we don't see a lot of, and that's really great because railings are a huge safety factor in a deck. The deck's actually bolted to the house, which is another thing we don't see a lot of. So really they're in pretty good shape overall. Everything is spanned correctly. Just needs to have a few joist hangers added on the outside, and this deck's going to be in pretty good shape and it's going to be safe.
One other thing he did mention, talking about staining and maintaining a deck. One thing, these are pretty green boards here. So I'm no staining expert, but I have heard that you need to let them sit a few months to dry out so that the stain actually takes. Because I also have seen quite a few times where people stain them too early. You come back a couple months later, they're all peeling. Then you got to sand and you got a huge mess and finishing problem on your hands.
Right.
So an extra feature of this house is it does have extra storage in the basement with exterior access. There was a few things that Vince noticed in this room, and I'll let him point those out, and some concerns maybe he had that if you use this room in a certain way, you might need to do some changes.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of times a room like this is referred to as a John Deere room or something like that. If you're going to use this to store things like gasoline or a lawnmower, anything that's really flammable or that could cause fumes, there's a few things you want to do to this room. So one of the things would be to put an actual ceiling in it to create a fire break between the living space of the house and the storage area, kind of the same as a garage. A couple other things, with your main door access entry into the house, into the living space, you'd want to also have that completely sealed and be a fire rated door, as well as the door to the mechanical closet, which is also located down here. You'd want to have that sealed away, and that way it couldn't draw things like carbon monoxide or fumes from gasoline or oil or anything like that into your HVAC system and bring them into the rest of the house. So that's important safety stuff that you need to know if you have a house like this, or if you're interested in using this house in that way. That's some upgrades you might want to make.
Also, Vince was talking about safety. Another thing we plan to do in the storage room is put in a utility sink. We were concerned about the utility sink distance from the main breaker panel. So we're going to be working with Vince, make sure we get the sink far enough over to where we don't have any safety issues for anybody in the household. Okay, we're downstairs here at 3506 29th Street. This space turned out great. We had some challenges along the way, as we typically do in these remodel projects. There are 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. The idea of this space was maybe a play area or a workout area, kind of a bonus, off the main area to where, if you're down here entertaining, you have a spot. We did leave plumbing, so if anybody ever wanted to put in a bar top and a sink, we left the plumbing in place there as we did it. Then you've got your bigger open theater room. As we mentioned upstairs, we did have some support issues in this house, and Vince came and took a look at it. We actually ended up removing 2 pillars down here. They were inadequate for it. We went back with 6x6 posts based on the engineering specs. Also built some more supports into the wall. Talk a little bit about, I know it's a hot topic about new construction and whether you should have those homes inspected. This was an original owner home, so this house is a little over 20 years old originally, and everything that was done here was done with new construction. The homeowner didn't really mess with this part of the basement. So talk about some of the things you see in new construction homes on the inspection side.
Yeah, so just because a home is new construction, we hear a lot all the time from people, well, my home is brand new, why should I get it inspected? Well, this is one of those great examples of why you should have somebody else, a disinterested third party, take a look at your brand new home. That way you don't end up with issues like this 20 years down the road. So this house had a few issues. The main beam that supported the center of the house, it was not nailed together like it should have been, not bolted together, didn't have the correct support, and it only had 2x4s for posts, and that's just not enough support for a home like this, especially when you're talking about a full walkout basement with a full living space on top of that. So what Ethan did is they came back in, they went ahead and put real good posts in
they bolted the beam together, and they did everything correctly, so now that you don't have to worry about this going down the road.
We're down here in the basement bedroom, and one thing Vincent pointed out to us was some of the condition of a few of our windows here. We actually had some panels already on order, but he has shown us a few more that we're gonna have to get on order to finish this project up. But talk to us a little bit about what you see with windows, kind of some of the options you have for replacing windows versus glass panes, and kind of some of the work involved there and something you should watch out on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we see this a lot, especially in homes of this age, where you have a glass window, it's got water, moisture fogging inside, and this has some rust inside and stuff. And that typically happens when the seal between the two panes breaks. That can be caused by use over years. We see it a lot more on south and west facing windows where it gets a lot of sunlight, and that can build up a lot of heat in these windows, and that can also cause the seal to break. So the great thing about vinyl windows is they're pretty modular. So these little pieces of the vinyl come out, the glass just comes right out of that sash, and they can put a new piece of double pane glass in there with a fresh new seal and put it right back together. So you don't have to replace this whole window. You can just replace the pieces that are bad. So one of the panes, or both of them in this case, you can just replace, and then you've got a good serviceable window again. One of the things that they had to replace down here is this toilet. So this toilet actually was cracked right from the manufacturer, and as surprising as that may sound, this type of thing happens pretty frequently. We see toilets that come cracked. We've seen tub units that have thin fiberglass and they crack while they're being installed. So all of that stuff is important to look at, and that's some of the stuff that we check in a normal inspection. Even again on new construction homes, you can have these issues. It's not just older houses that have these problems, and so that's why it's a really great idea to get an inspection on a new home. The great thing about new homes is usually a builder is going to cover all that stuff under warranty for the first year. On people that don't have that builder's warranty, whether it's a new or an older home, one of the great things that we try to do for our customers, we give a free warranty along with our home inspection. So we have a 90-day mechanical and structural warranty on the home. We give that away free with every inspection because we feel like that's a great value for our clients.
I think we mentioned we had quite a few repairs in the backyard. We had to end up ripping out a ton of landscaping that was never finished out here. There were cinder blocks, a dog trail, and so we actually had to have somebody come rip all that out with a bobcat, regrade it, we reseeded. We fought a little bit against weather this year. We had a ton of rain right after we got this done, which washed a lot of our seed away. We came back in, but by the time we seeded, it was almost too hot to get a good set of grass. So we've really set a good foundation here. In my opinion on some of these houses, and what people do wrong is a lot of times they seed in the spring instead of the fall. Well, with this area, with the amount of water we get, the heat, if you're not seeding in the fall, you're going to have really trouble getting that grass's roots to be strong enough to withstand these 90-degree weathers like we're sitting in right now. So we've done our foundation, a good foundation for the grass for everybody here. One thing we did when we graded is, I'm pretty OCD, and I know Vince is too, about water management around these houses. So, talk a little bit about, how we put the dirt up on the foundation and what you see on some. And as you can see, we did gutters here that we dug them all out about 8 to 10 feet around. So talk about some of the issues you see on houses that this isn't done with and the expenses that water management can cost.
Yeah, so one of the things that I say over and over and over again is water is the #1 destructive force in a home. There's people that might argue with that, but I've seen enough houses to feel pretty confident in that assessment. We get it in thousands of houses every year, and water is always the thing that comes back to being an issue. So when I get to a house and I see gutters that are underground, I love to see that because that gets that water away from the house. You have a lot of water that comes off the roof of a house, and if it's draining right here by the foundation, #1, it can soften the soil around the foundation, cause cracking. #2, in a basement home like this, that water can seep into the basement, and that can cause mold growth and different things like that, and it cause rot on the interior of the house. So water management is a huge thing in a home, and it's overlooked by so many people, and I feel like it's really important. So I love to see something like this on a home.
Now, it doesn't apply here, but I'm sure one of the dirtiest spots in your inspections is always crawl spaces.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I know I don't crawl as many as Vince, but I've crawled my fair share of crawl spaces throughout time, and there's nothing ever clean in a crawl space. It's always dirty. And you know, these gutters, water management around the foundation, when it's bad, that crawl space fills up, especially our big spring rains.
Yep.
I'm a big fan of having a sump pump and a vapor barrier in those crawl spaces. Even if you don't necessarily need the sump pump, I always feel safer about it because there's always that huge rain we get around these area that brings that water table up, and it's better to have it in there than not. If you want to follow us around, we were going to go check out some of these items. Hopefully we're still looking pretty good on the inspection side with Vince, but he's going to point out some trouble areas he sees looking at these houses. One thing I did want to point out too, we actually have a new roof that was installed in 2021 on this property. So really, we talk about water management from houses. My other two major things are roof and insect. I believe if you keep insects away, a good roof, and water management, your house will last hundreds of years.
Okay, so there's a couple things that I noted over here, not major issues, but of course, you know, we always like to get everything that we can in an inspection report. So just a little bit of minor grading over here to get that soil away from the corner of the house. That way you don't have water that's getting back into that wall. And then sealing. We talk about sealing walls and sealing windows and things all the time on the exterior of the home. So just getting in here with a good sealant and sealing that siding to the brick to keep water or whatever from getting in there. Same here, sealing the brick to the vinyl. And then around on the front, the windows are typically not sealed to the brick. I personally like to see them sealed to the bricks because I've seen houses where after years of water blowing against that, you can have water that goes back into the wall and it actually cause damage to the home. So this is a pretty easy thing for anybody to do, and I'm sure this is something they're going to get done. You can just seal up around that window. Again, water is the #1 destructive force in a home, so keep that water out and you're going to be in a lot better shape in the long run.
So some things I see a lot with sealant too. Some of it's cosmetic, some of it's quality of sealant. So a lot of times I'll see homeowners go buy the cheapest sealant they sell at home, Lowe's, Home Depot, you know, whatever store you go to.
Yep.
And you know, in these houses, you want a good sealant because cleaning it up, recaulking something can be a chore, or it ends up looking really bad because you just have to keep getting bigger and bigger. Using a good quality sealant that's you know, do some Googling on it. Reddit's a great place to look for stuff like that.
Yep.
Make sure the reviews are good on it, buy a high quality one, but also color. So I see sometimes in this situation where somebody would come in and caulk a window and it would be all white. Well, that would look awful on this house with the tan windows. So make sure you're buying sealant that matches the home and doesn't stand out. All right, as we're finishing up the pre-inspection for 3506 North 29th Street, I want to take a second and talk about pre-inspections for sellers with Vince. I know from my standpoint, there's a few reasons I like it. It is an expense to the seller, but they get to know what the condition of their home is up front. There are major things we'll find out during an inspection period, and for one, it can cause a deal to fall through, waste more time for the sellers. It's hard with these close timelines with people moving and buying, so if we know what to negotiate up front, it can really help a situation, especially when you got a nice clean house like 3506 North 29th. But talk to you a little bit about deals you've seen fall through and some of the major issues that could have maybe been prevented if they knew about it.
Yeah, we see this pretty commonly really on houses that we inspect for buyers. So the buyer will come in, they'll hire us to do an inspection, and then during that inspection period we may find things that are an issue for that buyer. Now you never know, every buyer is a little bit different, so you don't know what's going to be an issue for that particular buyer. The beauty of doing a pre-inspection is there's a couple things that it does for the seller. Number one, it gives them the ability to put that inspection out there where potential buyers can take a look at the inspection before they even put an offer in, so they know what they're offering on and they know what the house is from top to bottom, and you don't have to worry about that becoming an issue after you're already under contract and after you've been off the market for 10 to 15 days, finding out that now the buyer doesn't want to go through with the purchase of the home. So being able to offer the seller's inspection, the pre-inspection, also gives the seller the ability to control the timeline of the repairs. This can help the seller get repairs done a lot cheaper than if they were on the tight timeline of trying to get repairs done before closing. It also helps protect sellers and real estate agents from a liability standpoint. When you're full disclosure on a house, you've put everything out there that could be a potential issue with this home. You're going to be covered from a disclosure standpoint. You can say, look, we've told you everything we could possibly know about this house. Here's the house as it is. We love to do pre-inspections for people because we think it helps them provide a better product for the market. So on this particular house,
well, and I was going to just talk about buyer confidence real quick too.
Absolutely.
So buyer confidence, when they know what's wrong, they can potentially, from a seller standpoint, go in with multiple offers. Potentially in this market, we've been bidding houses up quite a bit. So for the, cost of a seller pre-inspection, I do feel they have potential to earn a lot more on a property than what they would property beforehand. So, and then talk about kind of a little program that we're doing with this one.
Yeah, so with this home, we're going to have this sign in the front yard, and the beauty of this is that any potential buyer who drives by can take a look at the sign. They can text WGR1 to 417-465-3399, and they can get a copy of that inspection report right to their phone immediately. So they can look at that and know immediately whether they want to buy that house or not.
So we're finishing up 3506 North 29th Street here. I want to thank Vince for coming out, helping us throughout this whole process, making sure we're putting a good product on the street. Quick rundown on the house: newer roof, newer hot water tank, completely remodeled inside, quartz countertops, 5 bedrooms, split floor plan upstairs, 3 bedrooms upstairs, 2 down. We have an office, potential former dining room if you prefer that. Newer hardwoods throughout, newer carpet. This house is ready to go for somebody. If you're interested in taking a look or checking out a showing, call me at 417-894-9534 or visit me online at moving417.com. Hope you guys have a great day.